so much for being with us today. I'm Cheryl Henson, and I'm the president of the Jim Henson Foundation. And we are going to start with a special performance by Kieran Braun. And we're so happy that Kieran has joined us for the festival with his parents. Thanks so much for joining us, Kieran. He has a special friend with him.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Scruffles G. Doodle. That's S.C. Scruffles. But some people call me Scruffless. No fleas, no ticks, no scruff. Golden fur, golden throat, and golden rules of health. Are you enjoying the festival so far? Yeah! Okay, I'm going to say this again, but this time I expect all of you to go crazy. Otherwise, I'm going to have to sniff my way out into your seat. Put your face in. Okay. Are you enjoying the festival so far? Good. You make great howlers. Well, now you know my name is Scruffles, but I think it's time I talk a little bit about myself. I'm from the Kenneth Be Healthiereth clan. Now, I suppose you're familiar with Canis familiaris, but those dogs just eat dog bones and dog food and sneakers. Yeah. But not the Canis Be Healthiereth. We eat healthy organic foods like organic veggies, organic fruits, chicken and fish. Those are white meats. And chocolate chip cookies and pizza. Yeah, but do you know what my favorite thing of healthy living is?
What?
Exercising, of course. Why, I like running. To chase cats. I like swimming. After cats. I like chasing cats. And I'm working on climbing trees to chase cats. Well, I hope that you guys enjoy learning and listening at the festival. This is Scruffles J. Doodle saying, have a good time. But as for me, I'm gonna go enjoy a good workout. Running after cats. It is my honor and privilege to turn this panel over to my new friend, Cheryl Henson.
Each festival allows an opportunity for me to grow as a puppeteer and to meet so many fabulous people in this diverse community. When I was diagnosed with autism at age 3, puppets are part of my everyday life. I had my parents had used puppets to help support my language acquisition, and I had speech therapists who used puppets to help me develop my pragmatic language and social skills. And as I grew older and kept improving my communication, I felt that puppetry could be used as an effective way to communicate with others. And so, oftentimes we had some rewards to help me understand appropriate communication and behavior. And one of my favorite awards, which would always be puppetry related, was the Center for Puppetry Arts. And I developed many wonderful relationships with the CPA staff, including Aretta. Now, I was inspired by the works of Jim Henson and had a strong desire to follow in his footsteps. So my first puppet production, as you can see up here, was In Search of Jim Henson. It was when I was in the 6th grade. So my gifted instructor had collaborated with my advanced English teacher, and she allowed me to instruct my fellow classmates into the art of puppetry and help bring it to fruition. And everyone was thrilled when we presented it to hundreds of middle school students and received wonderful feedback. Months after In Search of Jim Henson, I gave a copy of my performance to Brian Henson at a conference at the CPA in honor of his father's legacy. During my high school years, I presented 2 original puppet productions, and my puppet team and I performed them at area schools, zoos, and libraries. Then, the success of our performances led to my environmental awareness production, Protect and Preserve, to be awarded and included as part of the Parks as Classrooms curriculum across the state of Tennessee. And during my senior year of college, I presented my bullying awareness program, Make a Plan, as part of my Bonner Scholar Senior Capstone Project, which was designed to promote puppetry in the arts to underprivileged children in our area. I was also asked by the 80 Players Theater in Houston to present a stage presentation and conduct a workshop on the art of puppetry as my first professional puppetry experience. And performing in front of the beautiful George Theater, in front of hundreds of Houston school children, was just such a rewarding experience. As I carried on through my college and high school years, I visited elementary schools and libraries to teach puppetry in a hands-on setting. When the pandemic hit, I received requests from teachers who asked me to build custom puppets so they could teach their students how to cope with the challenges of COVID. I became interested in drawing characters and building puppets around that time, even before that, and I've been building puppets ever since the requests during the pandemic. I know that without the art of puppetry, I would certainly not be who I am today. Puppetry had allowed me to break down barriers of communication and help me to develop relationships and really throughout my school years and throughout my life, and I really grow. I hope that I will support myself as a puppeteer and a puppet builder. I also hope that if there are teachers here, that you will be encouraged to support your students and any of the individual on the autism spectrum that you might meet to follow their dreams. Puppetry can be a unique and effective way to make a difference.
Thank you.
Aretta. Hi, I'm Aretta Baumgartner, proud to be the Education and Advocacy Director at the Center for Puppetry Arts. But I am more proud than you can imagine to be sharing this stage with Kieran. He has been an inspiration to me and to my colleagues for 12 years. Kieran, thank you for what you do. All right. And just as a sidebar, you can, I think a way to celebrate too, the uniqueness of this amazing audience that we're chatting about, this amazing community, is to just look at this table as indication of how differently the world processes information. Some of us have nothing. Some of us need this to process information. I've got props and pens and iPads. I think this is a beautiful visual reminder that all of us, no matter where we are in our journey, we share and process information differently, and look at this table as proof, visual, because many of us are visual learners as puppeteers, to just let you know that no matter where we are in our journey, we are going to be processing and sharing differently. So unintentional, but exciting. Again, the Education and Advocacy Director at the Center for Puppetry Arts. I'm the creator and curator of our Puppetry for All initiative. It began in 2015 as a pilot that we called our Autism Initiative. In 2017-18, the season morphed into what we called Sensory Friendly Sundays, expanding the definition and the programming a bit more. And last season in 2022, 2023, it morphed again and expanded into what we call Puppetry for All. And we'll explain that in a little bit as well. The photos are showing 3 levels of engagement that I'm particularly passionate about. The first photo showed a recent attendance of me and a colleague at the Georgia Conference and Exposition for Autism. Community engagement is absolutely the way to start. What does the community need? What do they have? How can we use our mission to support that? The second level of engagement, I think it showed a staff training. It really is engaging the staff level at the Center for Puppetry Arts, making sure we are all passionate about what we're doing so it is authentic, not imposed, and so that we understand how it supports the mission of the Center for Puppetry Arts, which is to inspire imagination, education, and inspiration through the global art of puppetry. And then finally, the patron level is that final thing. It's certainly last but not least, but unless we get the foundation of those other 2, community staff, we can't engage our amazing patrons in an appropriate way. So that's kind of my approach and my engagement at the center with the topic. I think we'll dig a little more deeply in a bit. There you go.
Thank you, Aretta. Gretchen.
Point out, you were so prepared. Anyway, hello, I'm Gretchen Van Lente. I'm the Artistic Director of Drama of Works. Come see Rent Party tomorrow at 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the Kogard Theater. Anyway, but besides our main stage shows, I've also been a teacher, a teaching artist, and now a full-time teacher in New York City since the late 90s, mostly working with special needs students and using my puppetry with those special needs students. Now I work for District 75, which is the special needs district in New York City, and I'm a full-time theater teacher for K-5 students. The school mostly has students on the autism spectrum, but also lots of other disabilities as well. So I also used to work at this is a little sidebar story. I used to work at the FAO Schwartz Muppet Whatnot workshop, if you've heard of that. I was the manager. Thank you very much. So we got a lot of people coming in to get their Muppets, many of whom were on the spectrum. And I had one student, or became a student, who came in. Mom said, you know, this is Marty, I'd like you to meet him. The doctor said he would never speak, right? But then he found Sesame Street. This is a direct quote. Now we can't get him to shut up. That's what Mom said, okay? But anyway, I started to mentor Marty, and I actually brought him to P of A Festival for the Day in Philly. And because it was basically, she hired me because she needed someone to talk to him about puppets. There was no one in his life to kind of have a social interaction about puppetry. So I became mentor for him for this. So bringing him to the P of A Festival for the day was like mind blowing, right? Because suddenly he's like, oh, I see you, you see me, we're the same, let's talk. They had a conversation and I was like, wait a minute, we need a place for people on the spectrum who love puppets to come together and have a social interaction. Social, professional, whatever it is. So we created a Puppet Club. So Puppet Club is an online Zoom meeting place that we have monthly meetings, completely free, absolutely free. It does not cost anything to join. for people who are neurodivergent and any kind of, we used to say differently wired, because it was like, you don't have to identify as having autism or have a diagnosis or anything like that. There's no requirement. Everyone is welcome at Puppet Club. And we do all kinds of things. I think, oh yes, so this was, Henson was very nice to donate a bunch of fur to us. And this was back when our first meeting was in person. Then we had the second meeting scheduled in person where Leslie Carrera Rudolph was going to be our special guest. It was literally the week of the pandemic. She called me, she said, Sesame's asking us not to have any in-person meetings. And I said, I understand. And so we tabled it, and then we started going on Zoom. Do you see yourself? Wait, where's Dan? Like there? Yeah, there's Dan. One of our club members right there. Top center. And this is David Valentine, is a puppet builder at Henson, and he gave a workshop. So again, a free workshop. I actually had to, I should have put the pictures of all the little boxes of puppet making materials I had to send to Chicago, Seattle, in New Jersey. I was in my car. Hey, you're in Brooklyn. Let me hand you the puppet making materials right there. So we did that. The next one is just another, yeah, so this is every time we take a nice little group photo. So here's just one of our meetings, a little bit farther back. So Dan's not in this one because he joined us a little later. But yeah, we do, we'll have special guests, but we do a lot of fun things. Our last meeting was so much fun. We just tried to make the world's hardest puppet trivia quiz because we've done them all online and they're way too easy for the members. So we're like, we got to make our own. We're not done yet, but once we are, we'll send it out to everyone. You can see how good you are, okay? They're stumping each other. It's hilarious. And so really, really fun, just social interactive kind of things. And then, but then also we had a whole meeting on copyright. What does copyright mean? What does it mean to copyright your work? Really professional kind of things. We're trying to help people with their careers and stuff like that. So I think that's the general overview. Thank you very much. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
My name is Stacey Gordon, and I have a puppetry company in Phoenix, Arizona called Puppet Pie. And I also have the incredible honor of performing the character Julia on Sesame Street. And if you're unfamiliar, Julia is the character. She's 4 years old. She's cute little red hair and bangs. That was a coincidence. And and she is autistic. And she is somewhat verbal. She also uses an assisted communication device, or ACC assisted. I don't remember because I was very little sleep because we're at a puppet festival. And yeah, it's really been incredible to be able to work with that team. I can remember Leslie just texting me a link, and I spent the entire day either watching the videos over and over again or sending the videos to people over and over again. I started my journey in the autism community in 2001 when we moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and I became a habilitator. If you're unfamiliar with that, think of the word rehabilitator, and there's no re that we're doing. So you're helping kids gain skills for the first time, typically. And a lot of those skills can be communication skills, whether that's verbal or nonverbal. All communication is valid. And then this is Bethany. That is the little girl that I worked with. There was a family who was like, we like you. How about you work with our child 46 hours a week? And so I did. I became part of the family, and they are part of my family now. And Bethany is now 25. She's almost 25. She'll be 25 very soon. And still nonverbal. But still has her ways of communicating non-verbally that are totally effective. And then in 2003, I left that job to pursue my own family that I was pregnant. So, and then we had this little guy, and he is now an adult, and his name is Noah. And this is, I think, the first time that I've announced his name in public now that he is an adult. Yeah. And he's been incredible. And I have that firsthand experience as a parent. And then I also can identify things within myself that I have firsthand experience with feeling, sensory sensitivities, not being touched without warning, things like that. Like, a pro tip for any of our autism community: look at people's mouths. It makes it so much easier. Like, it's, just all of these little things that I'm like, oh, well, of course it's genetic, right? And a lot of the things that I do, sorry, going back to my brain went, doing puppetry in Phoenix, I've been able to connect with organizations there, like Seeds for Autism, which works with autistic adults. I've been able to connect with different schools for kids on the autism spectrum, or for children with learning differences, where a lot of children with autism end up going. And in Arizona, we have a program where if you've been in a public school for at least 100 days and that school is not meeting your child's needs, you can send that child to a private school that does meet their need on scholarship. And so that is what we did with our son when he reached high school. And I've been able to build relationships with those types of schools just over the years, because I think the biggest part of working with people who are autistic is realizing that they are people, and that everybody deserves the same treatment. And that is feeling comfortable. It's clear communication, and having people feel successful in what they're doing. Like, in all of my workshops, I want to do something where everybody leaves having felt successful. Everybody leaves having learned something. Everybody leaves having learned something about themselves. Oh, and then I built an ice cream truck over the pandemic. As one does. Yeah, thank you.
Do you want to talk about?
This was my first day on the job.
Oh, smile.
Oh no, that is 1000% joy. And I think that you were there on my first day, and you were like, Stacey, she looks like you. And I was like, and then that you asked me, she asked me, are there studies? And I said, no. And I was one of those puppeteers who gave you that anecdotal evidence. I mean, just in my work, in my HAB work, we used puppets because I have theories. I don't know if I have time to get into them right now, but do I have time to get into them? Not really. Great. So anyway, this is but the next picture that's coming up is one of the things that I am most proud of. When they introduced her, they didn't know what the reception would be. She was just supposed to be an online character. And when they created the puppet, then they had to search for a puppeteer, and Leslie Carrera Rudolph went back and she was like, I Julia, she looks like Arizona. And I was told, I was like, oh, what is it gonna be like? Can I bring her to Dragon Con? And just different things. And I was told that she would not be traveling anywhere. They're not going to put her in the parade. They're not going to do anything. And there was a very significant day that I won't get into. And after that day, I went to our producer, and I thought I was going to get fired afterwards. But I was just like, I need Julia involved. Julia would want to do these things. And what a better opportunity to include her than to show her with an accommodation. If she wouldn't be in the parade because the parade is loud, how would I put my son in that situation? My son would want to be in the parade. If I said, do you want to be in the Thanksgiving Day parade? He would be like, heck yeah. And then we would try and figure out how to minimize all of the challenges that he might encounter. And one of them is noise. One of them is wind. So we would make sure he's wearing a hat. We would make sure he's wearing noise canceling headphones. And we would make sure that he was wearing a scarf. And those are the noise canceling headphones. Like 4 weeks, 6 weeks later, I got an email from our producer saying, we're gonna put her in the parade. I wasn't able to perform her for the first 2 years. And so 2 Thanksgivings ago, after COVID started with the mask there, I was able to perform her in the parade. And it was one of the first times that I performed her in front of a group of people. And to hear, most people are yelling, Cookie Monster, Elmo, which is great. Every now and again, I would hear Julia. And it's just, and you see the impact. It's really what it is that you see the impact.
And pardon me, but speaking of noise reducing headphones, if anyone needs those and did not bring their set with them, there are a couple sets up here as well as some fidget toys. If anyone needs to borrow those resources while we enjoy our time together, please make yourself at home and do so. And just if you don't mind and you remember, you can gently return them there on your way out so that others may enjoy them later. But up here in the front, we do have some resources for you should you need them for our time together.
Thank you, everybody, for introducing yourselves. It's so great to learn a little bit about your background in this area. Your wealth of puppetry is so much more than these 3 to 4 minutes. So please explore more about all of our panelists on the webpage. I do have some questions for everyone. Kieran, I want to start with you. I'm interested to know more about your experience learning about and becoming a part of the puppetry community. Do you find the puppetry community to be inclusive?
Regarding your question about the puppetry community, I find it to be very inclusive. I met many different people with different ethnicities, genders, abilities, and personalities. And they all really care about my passion for puppetry. Everyone has been so supportive in answering my questions about their work and trying to make me feel included. And I also learned that puppets, the topics that concern difficult situations could be addressed in a sensitive way.
Thank you. Gretchen, I have a question for you. As a teacher, do you recall a moment when something really changed for a student because of the connection that they had made with a puppet?
Yeah, I also have always kind of, when I was doing my grad school for teaching, I actually wanted to write a paper, an academic paper, for my school about any research done. And I, like Cheryl, looked for it and I couldn't find anything. And so I kind of did my own little anecdotal in my class, was similar to what you guys ended up doing with Yale, where, I would read a story to my students, just myself, and then I would read a story with have the puppet read the story. Was the idea, right? And the difference was astounding. The amount of eye contact, the amount of engagement, and the amount of retention of that story when I told it with the puppet versus just me, even though I'm basically puppet like myself, was still the difference was astounding. Even if I had students who could only look, would make eye contact, look at the puppet, and then we have certain students who can't speak or can't move, so they would just look at the correct answer to a question, or move their eyes. The amount of retention of that story was much more with that. So that was kind of mind blowing. Yeah.
Yeah. Aretta, what sparked the Puppetry for All initiative at the Center for Puppetry Arts, and what has been happening with the program recently?
Sure. My amazing nephew sparked this interest for me 10 years ago at a family event. I was having a conversation with my brother-in-law, and he was mentioning how he wanted to have a day out with his son and went to a museum in Cleveland, Ohio, and really struggled through that experience. And I thought, museum, responsibility to welcome folks. Oh, we're among those museums that have a responsibility to welcome. So with that knowledge and that inspiration, I just started doing some research and stumbled across something that I want to make some folks in here aware of too, in case you're interested. It was in January of 2014 that I was doing a little web search, and I found it was the Theater Development Fund at the time. TDF is now officially what it's called. They have something called Autism Friendly Performances, a planning guide for theaters. It's been updated now in 2018, but it's found at tdf.org. .org/autism, I found a version of that. And I thought, how can we adapt that to the Center for Puppetry Arts? And reached out to a bunch of amazing organizations in Atlanta, Georgia. The one that's returned the email immediately was the Emory Autism Center. We're so fortunate that's in our backyard. They said, we'd be happy to meet with you and talk to you about maybe what you can do. And they said, thank you for asking. Aha, that has been the cornerstone of everything we've done is thank you for asking, thank you for caring, thank you for trying. If you do it with authenticity and passion, it's better to do something, even if it's not everything. And that same sort of generosity that Emory Autism Center has shown me since the beginning is the way that we've moved forward, baby steps. It was then summer of 2014, I pitched it to the staff at the Center for Puppetry Arts, some key players, programming colleagues, and they were game, terrified because we are smaller in resources and staff than some may think. We're large enough in spirit and heart and energy and programming. We're smaller than you may think. So after the how can we do it, it was the but we want to do it. January 2015, staff training was the first step. Emory Autism Center came in and did staff training for us. February 2015 was our first pilot program, and then a big old debrief, what worked and what didn't. Much more didn't work than did, but by golly, we tried. And then in a nutshell, right, it started growing from there. In terms of attendance, I budget for it at about 50%. If it's 50% full, it's a success for us, since we're so fortunate to get some resources in funding. 15-16 season, 67% attendance, 16-17, 73% attendance. With that, I invited guest artists to join in. Thank you, Heidi Rugg. Thank you, Drew Allison. They became, as guest artists, part of our sensory-friendly programming initiative, in which we chose different shows to be a part of our sensory-friendly Sundays. Well, no, we called it Autism Initiative at first, and then I got smarter because the world made me smarter. Others with sensory sensitivities need to be included as well. If you've met one individual with autism, you've met one individual with autism. So we decided to expand it to sensory friendly Sundays, and that was around 2017, 2018. 2018-19, it dropped to 66%, and I got more grants to help cover it. And we got more training to figure out what the heck are we doing to attract, that we can attract more amazing folks. 1920, thanks to the Leadership Exchange with Arts and Disabilities, the LEAD conference from the Kennedy Center, who found us and had pre-conference at our Center for Puppetry Arts. Thanks to that, helping spread the word, our attendance in 1920 was up to 86%. COVID happened and we paused. That's okay, we're rebuilding. In 2021, we're at 35%. But we're going to get back. I'm sorry, 21, 22. Where it is now, again, is with that expansion of, yes, it's still an important part of our program, Sensory Friendly Sundays, but again, expanding the community more broadly. So I've added advocacy to my title with the support of my colleagues so that I can lean into this work a bit more. And we have now expanded to Puppetry for All, in which we're doing folks for audiences or programming for audiences. Thank you, Vanna. For those with hearing needs. So we have American Sign Language performances that were on demand before. We're now building it into the season, as well as audio described programming for those with visual needs, and looking at web accessibility, which has been a huge dive for us. And super fortunate to add those resources as well. Again, baby steps, we're getting there, but adding that in there as well. Puppetry for All is what we're kind of leaning into as well. Big plans to try to add then multi-language resources into the programming down the road as well. And that's kind of where we are.
I just want to add that Aretta's journey intersects with my interest in creating the Yale Child Studies Center research project, because I'm a member of the board of the Center for Puppetry Arts, and I was a relatively new board member at the time that Aretta was first talking to Emory about this. And in order to initiate the project, they needed $5,000 to get it started. And they're having trouble raising $5,000. And I was like, well, what do you mean? It's like, this is such an important program. How is it possible that that $5,000 isn't available for this. It's really important. And that's actually a lot of my work with the Jim Henson Foundation is about funding. And it's about figuring out how funding happens and how to target it, get it to the right place to make it a difference, because our grants aren't all that large. And so that actually is what kicked me into really looking for the research. And like, if we have something substantive that says that this makes a difference, will the funders care? Because funders don't actually care about anecdotal evidence. They want something substantive, something that has statistics attached to it. So I want to thank Aretta for initiating that project, because our project would not necessarily have happened without her project starting first.
And ours would not without that. Yay, puppetry community. Thank you,
Yay.
Cheryl.
Stacey, I have a question for you. How have your experiences raising a child on the autism spectrum informed your performance as Julia on Sesame Street?
So I try to filter everything through. There's two filters. There's the Noah filter and there's the Bethany filter. So, and I try to bring the joy that both of those kids exude to her. I never wanted to play her as problematic. She's not problematic. The world is problematic in that it's loud and terrible and unpredictable and all of these things. And her laugh is my son's laugh. He still gets it every now and again, but he's like almost 20. So like you don't get that little, you know, and then it's also Bethany too. It's just these kids. When I say these kids, I mean these two specific kids have brought me so much happiness and joy. And I so often saw autism portrayed as the problem to solve. And I didn't want that. Autism is not to be solved.
Right. So, I have a few more questions for the panel. We are running a little, like, you know, it's getting to be time. So we're going to go a little quicker. And then if there's a couple minutes over and people want to stay, we'll do Q&A. Okay. Kieran, I want to go back to you. I would love to learn more about your work. Could you tell us a bit more about your puppet productions?
I started with In Search of Jim Henson in the 6th grade, and that was 15 years ago. I was inspired by documentaries, and 3 of which are Henson related. I had decided I wanted to use puppets to teach audiences about Jim Henson and his wonderful work. So I got to propose this to my gifted instructor, and she collaborated with my advanced English teacher, and they she allowed me to instruct my fellow classmates into the art of puppetry, and we helped bring the show to fruition. And we received requests to play the show numerous times, although we only performed it once. I mean, people still ask me about that. Then in 2012, when I was in my high school service learning class, after getting the inspiration to develop more original puppet productions, I developed Protect and Preserve. It's an educational production about wildlife and conservation in the Great Smoky Mountains. And we performed this at area schools in the Knoxville Zoo. And the Friends of the Smokies invited me to the Evergreen Ball in Knoxville, and they awarded my production as part of their Parks as Classrooms curriculum across the state of Tennessee. Make a Plan, my second production, was created months after Protect and Preserve. And it's a bullying awareness production divided into 2 segments. The first segment, Make a Plan, focuses on a little girl named Rosie who learns valuable methods of addressing a bully. And the second segment, Different Does Not Mean Less, focuses on a teacher talking with a group of diverse students with different strengths and challenges. And segment is about the celebrating the inherent value and potential of all individuals. And so I reran that show as during my senior year of college as part of my Bonner Scholar project designed to promote puppetry to underprivileged children. And then in 2019, I was asked by the 80 Players Theater to do a stage presentation and conduct a workshop on the art of puppetry. And I chose Make a Plan as my stage presentation. So it was kind of the longest run of my puppetry career so far. I am still currently in the process of building new characters like Scruffles, who you saw earlier. And I hope to get entrepreneurs or someone else to help produce my ideas for these future shows.
And I just want to point out that another one of Kieran's puppets is up here on the stage as well. And one that he just finished building recently. So if you can't see it from where you're sitting, make sure that you take a look before you leave today. Right here with the full blue bows. Stacey, I want to circle back to you. Can you talk about what it's been like to hear from other families who have connected with Julia through Sesame Street?
Okay, there's a tweet that goes around all the time. Like people send it to me several times a year. And it was tweeted originally by a parent. And it says something to the effect, I have not memorized it, I should. It's a conversation, you know, when parents quote their kids in like a little way that they do. And it's little girl at the pool. He's silly. Grandma, be careful. Little girl, I know, I saw on Sesame Street. Little girl walks over to my son and starts spinning together with him. And then representation matters, right? Like, my son was in swim class, and that wasn't our experience. Swim class was like the worst. I promised him we'd never do it again. And that experience and I connected with the mom or with the parent named Ship, and I sent them a bunch of Sesame Street stuff, and they were saying that they had they were running out of spoons, and so I made 3 little spoon puppets. I don't know if you guys know spoon theory. It's like that experience. And then because of Julia, 3 of my son's peers and best friends all got diagnoses. 3 of them. And then they all got to go to that same school together. He has a group of friends that he gets online with and socializes unprompted, which is not what our experience was pre-Julia on Sesame Street. So like it's not just changing people's lives that I don't know, it's directly impacting people's lives that I do know. And that's, I mean, it's impacting ours too. I mean, it's just incredible.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Aretta, some venues have started accommodating to audience members on the autism spectrum, including adjustments to sound levels, lights, and special showings. What are some things that are specific to a puppet theater venue and museum that create a welcoming and supportive environment?
Sure. And just a reminder too, Stacey, thank you, because when I say this is about an event, but really it's about the why, not the what. So knowing why we do it and integrating it into everything we do, not just setting aside special days of the year, is our goal. So thank you, Stacey, for that. I'm going to just read down this list fairly quickly. Come on in and take a picture of it if you'd like afterwards, if you want a list of these accommodations that we do. Preparation is key. So in preparation, we offer social stories on our website. We make sure there's clear communication to all the patrons, not just those that are coming that need or wish to enjoy the special programming, the modified programming, but to the patrons who will be there so they know that it's going to be a gorgeous blended experience. The third thing is we make sure we offer refunds and not just rain checks. We so appreciate you give it a shot. Thank you. It's hard to get out of the house on the best of days. it's unpredictable as to how the puppet experience will happen. The fourth thing we do is we do offer a 25% discount thanks to the kindness of funders, especially those who got us started, because it is so hard to afford to bring not just one person to the puppet theater, but a tribe of people necessary to enjoy an integrated experience. Number 5, we sell fewer seats to these shows so folks can spread out and claim the space they deserve to be in. And number 6, we've created an accessibility at puppet.org website. So those come directly to me and it doesn't get lost in the pipeline of, I'm sorry, yeah, thank you, email, so that folks, it doesn't get lost in the pipeline if there are any questions. Day of, it's about that training and prep again, and reminders to the staff to say, this is the amazing day that's coming and these are the amazing guests that are coming. Number 2, we bring in volunteers with specific connections to the autism community. Number 3, in the theater, we of course allow more room. The lights are up low the entire show. The house lights are. The sound is modified to be even sound cues. We flip the demonstration to the front of the show, not the end, so folks can know what to expect in that puppet show. We allow our guests to come and go as they need to make the experience work for them. We allow quiet and contained drinks and snacks. We've created a quiet space for folks that need to step outside and catch their breath, and then they can re-enter. Available throughout our space are sensory, our noise modifying headphones, fidget toys, light reducing sunglasses, and adaptive art supplies. In our creative puppet workshops, we have a dedicated room, latex-free gloves in case there are sensory sensitivities in that way. The tables are organized very specifically to be pleasing to some brains, and then some are going to organize it their own way anyway, no problem. And we do keep the music off in that room. In our museum, the lights are, again, the lights in the museum are up at a consistent level as you move gallery to gallery. The sound is modified and we have touch tables. Most importantly, though, our amazing staff, the ones that work those days are the ones that are super duper excited to be there. I am a lot and I know that. So many days I stay in the office unless I'm needed because I do understand that my energy may not be appropriate. Own it. That's cool. That's cool. Right. So that's kind of what we do in our space to welcome. And again, I have also some flyers up here and some of our sensory stories, everything, our social stories afterwards. If you need more coming up, I'm not an expert. I'm learning all the time, but I'm happy to share what we know.
Thank you. And I have one last question for our panelists. Gretchen, what do you think are some next steps for students and puppet club members who have found an outlet through puppetry?
Well, I think I will just focus on Puppet Club, we are just really trying to help foster their professional life, put our money where our mouth is in a way. So one thing we have done is we've created a website through it. So if you go to dramaverse.com/puppet club, there's also a link to our member page. So it actually puts their work on the page. So you can click through to their YouTube page, their Instagram and all that stuff. So you can see all their work and get to know their work better. And continuing to invite special guests. I'm going to try and bug some people here this week. Be like, hey, you want to come and be a special guest at Puppet Club?
Yes,
Looking at you. I'm looking at you, Pam. Anyway, and some other people. But and just continue to get more members so that we can get more community building going. There are buttons, so please take a button. Also, if you know anyone here at the festival or anyone that you want to become a member, the application, it's not, just to get your information really is available on that website, dramaworks.com/puppet club. So we would love to get some more members this week as well.
Great, thank you so much. I realize that we are at 3:05, but I also recognize we started a little late. This next show is not till 4 o'clock. Maybe we have time for about 3 questions or so from the audience. If anybody has a question, I see one in the back.
So, can you tell us more about the Jim Henson show? Just the worst I heard of it.
So the question was, just to repeat for our folks who are joining us virtually, he wanted to know more about the In Search of Jim Henson show.
Well, the In Search of Jim Henson, I kind of remember that I was inspired by the documentaries. I mean, like my favorites were Down at Final Rock, Behind the Scenes, The World of the Dark Crystal, and Inside the Labyrinth. And I thought of that maybe puppets could teach a documentary, because I saw a documentary called In Search of Dr. Seuss. And because Dr. Seuss and Jim Henson were some of my favorite heroes, it would be interesting to do play. The white character, the white 8, is basically the first character that I got at Epcot. And is close to my heart. She's an Audrey Hepburn of an 8. Her name is Nola, and she's the mascot of my company, Curesville Productions. So, and she's the host with the group of characters. Now, at the time, my manipulation skills were not as good until December 2008, when I got this DVD called Puppet Ministry Basics and Beyond. And that was where I learned the fact that you have to place your thumb one time for each syllable. And instead of popping up to enter and exit, then I'd have to walk up the stairs while moving my wrist like this. That was kind of how I did that. And I learned that through festivals, through that kind of retrospect.
Kieran and I bonded when we first met a little bit a few months ago over Zoom, because that was actually one of my first puppet trainings, was those videos as well. So, any other questions? Yes, here in the front. Yes.
This question's for Kieran and Gretchen. I have a nephew who's on the autism spectrum, and he's about 33. He's pretty isolated and doesn't really have a lot of interest, and I'd really like to introduce him to this. I'm worried he might think puppetry is babyish or childish, and I'm just wondering if you can.
I could respond to that actually, just because we get that a lot, and some of the, so not all teachers who come to my workshop self-select. You have people who are there because they were told to be there, and sometimes they'll say, yeah, but I have older kids.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do for me? And so then I say, well, it's also a profession. So then we look into the mechanics of it. We talk about behind the scenes. We talk about how to build puppets, that it's, you know, something that they could do. And there's so much more rich puppetry out there these days that it can be a really exciting technical theater job, in a sense, if that's something, if they have a technical engineering type of brain that might trigger that, or there's so many different aspects to the art. So that's my answer. Does anyone else have something to respond?
In response to your question about puppetry being as more a babyish thing, I mean, like, that was a recent development, as Jim Henson mentioned in the Washington DC Puppetry Festival in 1980. It's been a recent development since Sesame Street came on. But even before that, it has been for adults. I mean, like, when adults tell stories, I mean, like, The Dark Crystal is definitely for adults in terms of, like, you have violence or gore based on what the story point and what that represents. But it's actually a higher demographic than you think, because they tell stories for kids and adults.
And if I could just offer that if your nephew's passion isn't puppetry, that's okay.
Yeah.
Have him socialize where his passion is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's one of the club members will come to Puppet Club and they'll say, like, oh, well, I'm embarrassed to talk about that I like Sesame Street. I'm 35 years old, you know, but I can be completely open about my love of Sesame Street, Baby Einstein, you know, all this stuff.
Barney.
Yes,
Lots of
Barney,
Barney.
lots of Barney, thank you. In Puppet Club. And so they get to just let go and chat about these kinds of things and that, but I will absolutely, you took the words out of my mouth. If they're not into puppets, they're not gonna like Puppet Club. That's all we talk about. So, but they're welcome to try. See if they like it.
It's exactly like Kieran said at the very top.
Yes.
Let the kids in your life, or the people in your life, doesn't have to be kids, let the
Yeah.
humans in your
Yes.
life
Yeah.
follow their passions.
Yeah. I would say we have IEPs, right? And for school, it's an individual education plan, because individual.
Karen?
I'm wondering whether there are any efforts underway to identify doctoral students who are looking for dissertation topics to document the pre and post impact of each of your programs on the people that you're working with. Because what our fields need is proof that this makes a difference. So I'm wondering whether there is a way in which you might work with schools of education or people who are in special education programs who are looking for topics to investigate as part of their dissertations.
Carol, I can speak to that. We've just reached out to the Georgia State University Department of Art Education to start making a contact with them because one of their professors reached out to me and said, I've got students in need of projects. And I said, we've got projects in need of students. So thank you for making me smarter because I think I can articulate more clearly now some possibilities for those students and ask them maybe to spread the word. But thank you. We've made a start, but didn't know where to go. You made me smarter. Thanks, Carol.
That's a great moment to end on, like what the future is. We are at time, a little over time. Thank you all so much for coming and bringing us. And just a reminder, the program that you received today has a QR code here at the bottom. Please be sure to go to this website. It has more information about our panelists, some videos that you might find interesting on this topic, especially about the Yale Child Study Center. And for those joining us virtually, that website is linked on the Jim Henson Foundation website and will be even bigger and bolder tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Projects. Talk to us.
You have to go to projects first.
And
Oh,
thank you
yes.
to our virtual attendees as well.
Unless I'm checking you out in the store.
Then don't bother.
And so the
Take a bite.
website for those visiting us virtually is hensonfoundation.org and go to the projects drop-down menu, autism and puppets. You'll find more information there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zee. Good job.